Welcome to this year's TIFF Intercut Explains, where we're going to be previewing all of the good stuff that's coming out at the Toronto International Film Festival. I'm your co-host Arturo Zurita, and joining me, ready for a double-double at Tim Horty's, it's Zachary Shevich!
Ooh, all that caffeine and sugar coursing through
That's
my
all I want.
veins. Can't fall asleep on a 5 or 6 movie day with Tim Horton by my side.
Only popcorn and like the smells of butter and the boom poutine because we're not in, I think, Quebec or Montreal who actually does it right. But hey, we go to
Mhm.
Toronto not for the cuisine.
Yeah, and not for the Tim Hortons. There's not a very
I'm
conveniently
gonna go
Tim
for Tim Hortons.
Hortons
There's not.
located
It's a
by
trek.
TIFF. Yeah, you have to kind of like venture away from the festival to get it.
They say that's what makes it even better. It's you venturing out of your way that makes these film festivals in general the place to be. This is a year where they're not going to be doing a split digital to um, in person. I think it's going to be all in person,
Hmm.
but it is going to be a list of movies that I think will have most releases throughout the rest of this year. But a big part of this list is breaking down a lot of the movies that may not come out before December. Movies that we want to make sure are on your radar. If something's getting a premiere and it comes out the following week, we know you know about it. But we make these little videos right here in order to be able to put something on your radar that may become your next must-watch movies. So Zach, let's start breaking down some of the stuff at TIFF because you can head on over to the letterbox that they have. I know a lot of people make lists. It's always really good to go for TIFF because Letterbox is this headquarters thing where they will combine everything that the institution or group whatever is putting together, and they have an entire one that puts all of the movies for all of the categories in order. Now, for my list, I have a lot of them split into genres. Zach's going to have his split into
The
the specific
categories at the festival,
categories.
yeah.
So we'll start with Zach's breakdown of the categories, and then I'll flesh in some of the other picks that we have here. But again, this is probably the best way to like keep a log of how many you've seen. Another really cool thing about this is that it's not so much you going to the festival and seeing all 186. It's this
Hmm.
idea of this is the lineup that speaks to Toronto this year. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of movies, but what are the movies to keep on your horizon?
Yeah.
So let's
And
start
the
with the
No, I was
shoot.
just gonna say that Letterbox really is the best way to kind of break them down. Like the TIFF website has all the information, but I find
It's
it's like
there.
it's kind of hard to scroll sometimes. Like you might see this top bar keeps coming down and like getting in the way of some of the
Yeah.
stuff that I'm trying to read. So going by the Letterbox list, which is nicely organized in that letterboxed format that you're probably familiar with, probably the best way to tackle what is a gigantic slate. We go to Sundance every year. We do Toronto a lot. We were at South by earlier this year. You're coming to New York later this year. None of those festivals play quite as many films as the Toronto International Film Fest.
It's like they're selling movies over there. Except for the part where they're no longer selling movies. Most of these are picked up. Zach, do you miss the days when we would go to a film festival and wonder what is going to get that like the acquisition? I think the biggest one. Talk to
Yeah.
me with A24 picking it up, but everything else A24 already had. Past Lives, they already had
Yeah,
a bunch of the other movies.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's always still some acquisitions. Like I see Flora and Son on your screen right now, and
Hmm.
when we were at Sundance, that was a big pickup for Apple. But yeah, feels like less deals, or at least less splashy deals, being made at Toronto. The biggest one that I can remember last year was How to Blow Up a Pipeline getting picked up, and obviously that's been a movie we talked about a lot this year. But it's different than the kinds of movies like Coda or whatever that you see sometimes get it picked out
Right?
of
Yeah.
Sundance and for lots of money. And want to give a quick shout out to the super chat from Wiley, who we actually met up with at our
Hey, at
Sundance
South by. South
at
by.
South by. Exactly, yeah. So he said want to send in the support while we enjoy the new movies. He's going to watch The Bear for a second time. Not a
Nice.
bad way to go about it, but yeah, we're going to get some movies on your radar that hopefully you'll be able to catch in the coming weeks, months, maybe year.
Yup. If you boot up the one that you had right there on your screen, I want to show something on the schedule, or at least on the lineup for the TIFF website.
Uh, on my screen.
Yeah, on this one right here, if you go
Yeah.
up to that little like ticker on the right side, you know how you kind of have, yeah, all those little different things right there. That's the schedule. If you click the one up there that kind of looks like a flag, right there, right to the right, yeah, that. So The only thing I will give the lineup is that you're able to like go through genres if you wanted to. That's how I like breaking down my stuff. But it does give you all the programs. So if you click the first one, which you're breaking down, which is the Gala one, it will at least put all the Gala stuff there. As someone who really, and then yeah, just go back to like the list, whichever list. Do you have a preferred one?
I like doing that one so you can get a little bit of plot description without opening up
Yes,
yeah.
agreed. That's what I
So
wanted to break down as well. So this will kind of give you like the entire lineup just for the Gala
yeah,
presentations. And if I go to my other notes that I have over here, bro, one of these categories has like 46.
yeah.
That just like makes me lose my breath just thinking about how many movies
So
there are in one
much
go.
too.
But
Hey,
um,
one more quick thing while we're still navigating the TIFF website. Something weird about when you go to films is that you have to click that date button and go to the schedule format in order to see this download button that allows
goofy.
you to actually download the CSV file of it. And at least in my experience, the CSV is a lot easier to navigate than this website, or at least for trying to find spots on your schedule.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We'll break down different ways that tips and tricks that we use. It can get a little annoying, and then we'll also have like the venues that we're gonna have to break down because a lot
Hmm.
of people forget that it's like it kind of depends on where you're going. Like that. That's a new movie right there. Lil Nas X, Long Live Montero. Like this is what I'm saying. It's you need to have one of these because I just went through the list in this past week. Brand new one right there.
Yeah,
But
exactly. They added that a little bit late.
Zach, let's just start breaking down some movies. Get some movies on people's radar, and then
Yeah,
we'll break down how we plan on putting stuff together. But Zach, you had for your gala presentation a top three.
yeah. Let's start it out with my number three, I guess, here, which is Naiad. This is a movie that has been on our radar for a little bit because it is the feature debut, the narrative feature debut, I should say, of Elizabeth Chai Vasarhelyi and Jimmy Chin, who we know as the documentarians behind Free Solo and The Rescue, as well as some other really interesting, mostly like outdoorsy and nature themed documentaries. But this is a narrative film starring Annette Bening and Jodie Foster. Annette
Hey.
Bening plays a woman who attempted to swim from Cuba to the U.S. without a shark cage, which sounds pretty interesting. Not sure how they're planning to adapt it into a film, but with some really exciting actors involved, I'm very curious to see what they have in store here.
Yeah, and like you said, this would be their first narrative, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of their movies have been adapted into narratives, but I'd be curious to see what a documentarian is able to do with the actors and how they mix their techniques from documentary filmmaking to this.
Absolutely. Another film that I'm interested in from the Gala section, I'll go with Finest Kind over here. It is a film with another interesting cast, including Tommy Lee Jones, Ben Foster, and of course, Jenna Ortega, who I think is going to be
Crazy.
probably one of the bigger names with the film at the festival. And it is a film, a crime drama about a crew of fishermen on dangerous waters. I feel like the at sea genre and the hard boiled crime genre are two sort of uh, are they're a good match for a movie. And just with this cast, I feel like it's interesting film. It's world premiering at Tribeca as well, so I'm curious about this one and why they put it in the Gala category. They tend to it's not the biggest category at the festival. There's only 20 films there, so they're spotlighting it hopefully for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You have
I
20.
think.
I have 14 plus the one that I'm missing, I guess. Uh, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
21 now. Wow.
yeah, there you go. So
They also kicked one out. I don't know if you even got to see this one on the schedule. Let's see
which
if we
one?
put it over here. So I have my link, right? And as I put up my link, this is how I know that this was
Oh,
a URL. Sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that. But it's okay, because I like putting my letterbox with it as well. Punjab 95, bro. It's always a Middle Eastern movie in these festivals. If you remember, Sundance a couple years back got rid of there was like a jihad one, and they just very quietly Got rid of it off the schedule. There was
Mm.
one in Toronto, I think,
Oh
last year that
yeah.
compromised. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. This is yet another one. I have not looked into it, but this was announced.
I
There was some reports for it. I don't know if you know
mhm.
anything about this movie, but it's gone.
I saw a little bit. Sident on Twitter, or I guess X was talking about it. This is a documentary, I believe, or maybe it's not, but it was a film about an activist who is bringing a lot of attention to the the treatment, I believe, of, I want to say, Muslims in India. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm mixing it up with another film that got removed, and that's not it.
So
But
they cut the attention of it?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. It
I don't
seems
know.
like they bowed to some kind of political pressure, which not
Hey,
great, but wouldn't
not
be the
great.
first time that a film festival did that.
But there it is. Hopefully get some sort of other release, but that is one of the first things to note there of a movie that is gone. But I see the last pick that you had here was Lee, which I am also very excited for.
Yeah, I mean, the story of a photographer who becomes a fashion. Sorry, this
A fascist?
the sorry, the fashion model who becomes a
Oh,
war photographer is what I'm
I was like,
trying to say.
I read a different
I
log line,
mixed
bro.
I mixed I got it the wrong direction. But the real reason I'm curious about this, it's not that it stars Kate Winslet, one of my favorite actresses, or Marion Cotillard, or Andrea Riseborough, or Alexander Skarsgård, or Andy Samberg. Weirdly enough, lots of people that I really
Good for
like.
him.
The reason that I'm particularly curious about it is that it's directed by Ellen Kuras,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
who, while her directing spot record is maybe a little spotty, maybe not as filled out, as a cinematographer,
Insane.
you have it up there. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. She also worked with Michelle Gondry on Be Kind, Rewind. She did the cinematography for, I think it's Tony Scott who did Blow. She did the cinematography for Spike Lee on He
On
Got Game, on
two.
Bamboozled, on
Boozled,
David
bro.
Byrne's American Utopia. She has shot so many iconic films that look unbelievable. So if she's directing a film with as interesting of a premise and cast as this one, Lee is going to be high on my radar.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. The last one that I would. Even Marty did three Marty docs, especially this one, Pretend It's a City, which is one of my favorites. And
Yeah,
I too am very curious to see how a movie that's got a cinematographer just really accentuates that film language. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with it. But
totally.
Lee, a TIFF drama. I didn't even realize Andy Samberg was in it. I just
Yeah,
like skipped over his name because, because of that. But those would be your top three from the gala presentations. Another one to mention that I would have here is The Boy and the Heron. This is obviously the
yeah,
big release from Miyazaki that a lot of people were going to go to Japan for because that's the only place that was playing it. We didn't even have images over here. The first stills have come out. I am very excited for this one. So this is definitely one of the ones that I have at the top of my list for the galas.
definitely. Should we get into some special presentation
Talk
films?
about it.
All right, so special presentation, a lot of high profile movies from big filmmakers. The first one I got up here is Evil Does Not Exist. This is the latest from the boy, Raisuke Hamaguchi, who more recently made Drive My Car. He also made the beautiful Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy 2 years ago. He's back with a film that is pretty highly acclaimed, although I've heard some things about it being a little bit different than
Hmm.
some of his previous work. But look, it's a fantastic director. The film, I believe, already premiered at Cannes to good reviews. It won't be the first time that we talk about a film that was well received at Cannes that we're excited for at this festival. So yeah, I got Evil Does Not Exist on my list alongside American Fiction. We were talking about this one a bit off of stream, but I don't know if you're
Oh, you
hyped
like the boy?
on
Yeah,
this one
yeah, yeah.
too. Yeah, this is the directorial debut of Cord Jefferson, who, although hasn't really done a lot in film, he's done a lot of work in TV, writing for shows like The Good Place, Master of None, more stuff recently like Watchmen, and he's just sort of got this like really strong track record that makes me want to know. Oh, Station 11 is the other one that I love.
Hmm.
Makes me really curious in what he wants to do next. I've heard some interviews with him. He sounds like a very interesting guy. And this film is an adaptation of a novel that is about a English professor who tries to expose the publishing world. And I don't know. He seems like the kind of writer who can handle that, but it also has a cast that sounds exciting, particularly Jeffrey Wright in the main role. I always love Jeffrey Wright as an actor. Don't feel like he gets enough of a shot as sort of like a lead man. So I definitely want to check out American Fiction.
I like that he calls it a wicked satire about the commodification of marginalized voices and a portrait of an
Mhm.
artist forced to re-examine his integrity. This is right up my alley. The one thing I had to laugh at, bro, is I pulled this up and I was like, bro, this looks just like the TIFF logo. It's like one of the few posters that they don't have any images. That, like, this
Yep,
movie has nothing going for it, which sometimes is a really good thing. That's usually those
they're
movies
trying
that
to
are like
save it.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, they're trying to save it. But I'm also very excited for this one, a comedy drama. I see you don't have one on your list, and I'm kind of surprised if you're saving it. I
Oh,
had
which one?
this as one of my top dramas, Fingernails, the
Oh,
shot on 35 millimeter English debut from the one and only Christos Nicole. He was AD on Dogtooth. And I didn't even realize before midnight, but the reason he's been on our radar is because he did a little movie that also came out of Toronto a couple years back called Apples that we both really dug.
yeah.
Now,
Great
this is
movie.
streaming November 3rd. Don't get it twisted. That's a little too soon, in my opinion, if you're going to travel all the way across to another country to see a movie that's about to be
Hmm.
out. But damn, when you have a director and a cast as good as this, Jesse Buckley, Riz Ahmed, Jeremy Allen White, screw it, Luke Wilson, Annie
Yeah.
Murphy. I'm really curious about this. It's being described as an allegory about our desire for certainty, reliance on technology, and the price we pay for losing the connection to our most primal instincts. Yeah, I'm down. That would be one of the picks that
Yeah.
I'd put on there as well.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of my like I would even say it's like top five most interested in the festival because I
The
really,
year.
really responded to Apple's. I've been very, very excited to see what he would do next, and particularly given that cast, it's really exciting. So yeah, Fingernails, absolutely check that one out if you get the chance to.
And Buckley's gonna be in a lot, dude. So I'm like really freaking excited for that.
Hmm.
But I'm interested in this next one. I did not realize the boy had a movie here.
Yeah, it's the return of Linklater, man. Uh,
He never
you
left.
know, yeah, not that he's been gone for long, but Richard Linklater keeps cranking out movies. The latest one is called Hitman. I think intriguingly, this one stars Glenn Powell, an actor that I
Hmm.
like a lot, although I don't know if he's necessarily had the perfect role for what his talents are. It's cool to see him working with Richard Linklater because he previously worked with Richard Linklater on Everybody Wants Some. I think that was a movie that introduced a lot of people
I
to
liked him, yeah.
Glenn Powell, and it utilized his charms in a very specific way. So yeah, I mean that combination of actor and director, to be honest, is enough to get me in the door. The promise of some kind of like Hitman premise is always interesting, makes for
Hmm.
good fodder for movies. So yeah,
Yeah.
Hitman's one of the films on the top of my list here.
He also did Apollo 10 and a half. I don't know if you did get a chance to
Yes,
see that one right out of
yeah,
South by. He was like one of the guys who gets the kid to go on the spaceship.
one of the
Their
NASA
interview,
guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
their interviews for that is what has me really intrigued on their collaborations because the way they talk, this man is his muse. This is Richard Linklater's little side thing
Hmm.
right now. So I hope that they have something good cooking up here. Because other than that, besides his Top Gun success, what's the movie he's got with Sweeney? You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about? That rom com,
um,
that rated R
yeah, yeah,
rom
yeah,
com.
yeah,
Everyone
yeah,
keeps
yeah.
making a big deal about.
Exactly. I don't
Uh,
know the title of it, but yeah, they're
yeah,
working on it. Yeah.
that one. I know people are really excited for that, so I'm curious what's gonna happen here because I love this idea of he's not just a hitman. He's pretending to be this undercover cop who ends up getting all the evidence directed at him and he doesn't realize it, but
Hmm.
that's what happens because he gets involved. Yeah, no, this looks like it's going to be really good. An action comedy from the one and only Richard Linklater.
Absolutely. Let's keep it going in the special presentations category because this is the biggest of TIFF's categories. I think there are 51 movies
Yeah,
in special
it's
presentations,
it's
and
disgusting.
it's banger after banger after banger. I'm going to go with Seven Veils as well. This is the latest collaboration between director Adam Egoyan and Amanda Seyfried. They previously worked together on Chloe.
You know
You
it?
remember that movie,
Bro, I
Chloe?
was wondering if you remembered this movie. This movie
Yes.
should not
Yes.
have been rented by my family when Blockbuster was around.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever like really, really responded to an Adam Agoyan movie. I think he makes a lot of interesting stuff, but stuff that I find other people review more highly than me, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
But I've never like disliked his stuff either. He's an intriguing filmmaker, and the plot here has me intrigued as well because Amanda Seyfried is playing a theater director who is trying to put on her mentor's most famous work, an opera, but she becomes haunted by memories of her past, which maybe it's because I'm fresh off of a rewatch of Amadeus or something, but it sounds
Hey.
prime for like tortured artist territory. Yeah, I'm curious about Seven Veils.
They're doing an interesting thing with this because it's an opera, right?
Yeah.
I too am excited because they're pitching it as a psychodrama. Did you catch that they've partnered with the Canadian Opera Company and are having an exclusive pre-festival premiere at the opera?
Ooh, that sounds kind of fun.
So if you're there early, I think that would be a pretty cool way to experience the movie. I don't know if there's gonna be like a live orchestra or anything. I know they're doing that for some other movies in New York and Toronto, but
Yeah,
one little thing to note of there. So good pick.
totally. All right, I got one last one here for special presentations. Do you want to talk about the holdovers a little bit?
Ooh, the new Alexander Payne movie that is going to be
Absolutely.
out, if I'm not mistaken, like in November, end of October. So you can hold over and catch it when it's actually out in theaters. But there's a trailer out for this already, and it looks fantastic. He
Yeah.
has what's his name, Giamatti, leading the movie, and it kind of seems like it's in Boston, if I'm not mistaken, where they're all getting together. And he's like the grumpiest person possible. Which, if you know Alexander Payne movies,
Hmm.
that's like his thing. Like, is Nebraska his last one?
Yeah.
Or was it? Oh no,
Or
sorry, downsizing,
downsizing.
downsizing.
Yeah.
Also grumpy, but like the grumpiness in his characters, I think is like a staple to him. I think it looks fantastic. I already got the art house. I wouldn't call it art house, but like my music box landmark theater that I want to go see this at. I think it's got a pretty good cast as well. And I gotta say it, bro. I brought it up in the past when we were talking about the series no one wants to say, but I think she's next up. Divine Joy Randolph is getting picked up by some really good directors, and I think she's gonna have a good filmography by the end of this year, and just leading into the bigger things she's gonna do by next year. But the holdovers, you can catch it at home, but it will have its premiere, if I'm not mistaken, worldwide at Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. It won't be long until you can catch it. But look, Giamatti is a great actor, and I feel like he's a great actor that hasn't had a chance to be great in a movie in what feels like a decade. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, he's been slumming it on TV for a while. But his best work has been for Alexander Payne. You know, he was excellent, excellent in Sideways. So I'm very excited for this one. And like you mentioned, it's got that great trailer. Like I think the trailer itself is like a work of art. Honestly, it feels
It
like this
was pretty good.
it's this amazing like kind of throwback. It almost feels like a parody trailer to that
Yeah.
kind of movie, except it seems like it just genuinely is
That's a
that
good way
kind
to
of
put it.
movie.
Yeah, no, that's a really great way to put it.
Yeah.
I played in the background seeing the release date. I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to save this one. And the more that I saw it, the higher I kept it up on my list. So, look, there's way too many movies here. Some other ones that I wanted to bring up would have been Pullman, the mystery
Oh
thriller that's
yeah.
coming out. The directorial debut, y'all ain't even gonna believe this, of one Chris Pine.
Yeah.
He
And
stars in it himself, and he
and
just
he
plays a
chose to
pool
look
cleaner.
like that in his directorial debut.
Bro, I am down for this. It's giving me vibes of like Under the Silver Lake because he's like trying to
Hmm.
solve something that no one's asking him to solve. He's been working on this movie for a long time,
Hmm.
and it's going to be shown in 35 millimeter, or at least was shown in 35 millimeter from what I heard. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to present some of these. But Pool Man is another one to have up there
Yeah.
on the list. Bro, do you remember this movie? Les Miserables?
Of course, Laj Lai, I believe, is
Yeah.
the director's name. He also was the co-writer on Athena, a film that I think we both really enjoyed.
Athena was fantastic. I always forget he's the writer on there. And going through the stuff, I was like, yo, this may be one of my most anticipated movies of the festival. It
Hmm.
is set largely in a suburb, I want to say, in France, and it's about an incident that happens that causes everything to, just go crazy. But there's one particular line in the way that they describe the movie where it says it reveals how advocates from within the communities that are marginalized are pitted against each other, and they don't even realize it.
Hmm.
Let's go. He killed it with Les Miserables. I am extremely excited to see what he's going to do with this movie. So that's definitely a standout for me. One that Amanda was very high on, bro. Or two. I'm gonna do a double here. monster. Just got to shout out the new Koreeda movie. If there is a new movie directed by this man, I don't see how you're not going to go to it. Even if it sometimes is the same thing, a lot of the times
Hmm.
between Shoplifters and Father and Son. But I have heard some crazy things about Monster being like. Best way I could put it is when you go to the TIFF website and you scroll all the way to the bottom, they're going to have some warnings. And the only warning for this is bullying. And I have heard that the bullying for this is so hard, it's what gave it a rated R. So I am extremely excited to see what he's going to be doing with this new movie. There is a trailer for it. And pretty much the depiction is about he is back filming in Japan. And it's supposed to be a moral tale about school bullying, scored by the late Ryuichi Sakamoto. So it's also one of
Hmm.
his last collaborations as well.
Yeah.
But Amanda
There.
Hiley. Go ahead.
Oh, no, no, go ahead.
Dude, Anatomy of a Fall looks
Yes.
like the thriller of the year. Winner of the Palme d'Or over at Cannes.
Hmm.
And I had only seen Sybil from the director, which is pretty decent,
Hmm.
but this director has been getting a lot of praise for this movie. It also stars one of the actresses who's going to be in the another one that premiered
Sandra
at Cannes.
Hüller. Yeah, she
Yes,
was. She was also in. Was it Zone of Interest?
Zone of Interest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, which is
So
also at TIFF.
it's going to be a TIFF. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see not only her performance, because I heard a really big stand up for that, but it's supposed to be a portrait of a woman who's put on trial for the murder of her spouse. And I don't know if it's told in different ways, but this is one of my most anticipated. I think I have only fingernails above that one. So
Mm.
a lot of really good stuff in the works. Next Go Wins. I'm surprised you didn't mention because you're really excited for it. But I saw you've been you've been going through the material that it's for.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched the documentary because I watched it back in I think 2014, 15 when it came out, and it's I care about soccer. I know some of the I'm familiar with some of the things involved in it, so I was curious about it. And it's a really interesting story. I think it I think it is well suited for the type of adaptation it can be. And I think there's a world in which Taika Waititi does it really well. I'm a
I hope
little
so,
bit
dude.
surprised to see that people think it's a potential Oscar contender. I really
Just because
don't
it's a
think it's that kind of movie, but like people seem to like Taika's style. I don't know.
you
Um,
would have felt the same way with the rabbit one.
yeah,
Tense
exactly,
of
right?
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not like Jojo Rabbit. I'm open to liking this one,
This other
even
one.
though Thor 4 was bad, man. Thor 4 was bad.
Thor 4 was horrendous. A couple of other ones to mention here. I don't know who Christy Hall is, but she has come out of nowhere and has a twofer of
Yeah.
Dakota Johnson getting picked up at the airport by Sean Penn, and they just talk. This woman has been picked up to write a Stephen King novel
Ooh,
that is being adapted by Lynn Ramsey.
interesting.
She is working on the Thelma remake. Zach, no one told me there was a Thelma remake. If you don't remember Thelma,
I do.
this one right here, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and then on top of it, I know it's gonna be mixed here, but she's working on Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us. I know she comes with a lot of baggage, but damn, what a pickup for her. So
Mhm.
she's got this movie called
She's
Daddy-O that's gonna be
working.
at TIFF. I'm really curious to see what she's gonna do with this because it seems like it's gonna be a good cast.
Yeah.
You saw Michael Keaton is coming back to direct.
Yeah. What's it called? Knox Goes
Knox Goes
Away.
Away.
His
He
directorial debut.
That's what I thought. And then I come to find out
Oh, wait,
that
no?
he did a 2000. I don't think we're gonna count it, bro. But he did a 2008 movie called The Merry Gentleman.
Okay.
I'm with you, bro. Let's just
I
sweep
don't know
that
if
under
he
the
wants
rug
to
and call
count it
it.
anymore. Yeah.
It's the re-debut of Michael Keaton as a director, where he is. It's a thriller where he directs and plays a hitman. So a lot of hitman here who's losing his memory. So I'm kind of curious to see what he's gonna do with that one. Um, I have a movie called Memory. Immediately right after, it's Michel Franco's new movie. If you've never followed this
Yeah.
guy, he's done movies like New Order. He most recently did one that was his English debut in Sundown. So this would be his second movie that he's doing in English overseas. But it's got a stat cast with Jessica Chastain, Peter Skarsgård. It's combining the past, the present, and the future of their relationship, and kind of going through all the stuff that they've dealt with once one of them goes through dementia. So, I mean, there's a whole list. I can go through the rest of them, but those are some of our picks for the special presentations at Toronto.
Absolutely. It's probably the category that has the most films that will A, get a wide enough release for people who are not at TIFF to see, but
Hmm.
B, just it has the most like filmmakers and stars and people like that you've actually heard
Yeah.
of. So that's a great place to
Will they be
start if
there?
you're trying to. Well, that's the kind of interesting thing. We mentioned we've been talking about the strikes, the writer's strike and the Screen Actors Guild strike. So that is limiting a lot of people's participation. We get press emails talking about like potential availability for interviews and stuff like that. And a lot, I don't know if you've been catching this. A lot of them say the directors are attending, the stars are attending pending waivers. So the SAG waivers haven't been released yet, I
Waivers.
guess. We'll see.
Whoa,
We'll
they need
see.
hall passes. Damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There will be some stars there too, because like let's not forget, this is an international film festival. Not most international productions aren't bound by SAG, so it's mostly just affecting like the American movies or the American co-produced movies. So
But all my
there won't
favorite
be as,
French actors will be there.
I believe so. We might get a glimpse of Sandra Hüller.
Is she German? Damn. So like
Yeah, you're right. You're
everybody
right.
but
You're right.
anyone who speaks English. All right. Let's get to this next one, Ovi. Last thing I'd say about the galas. That is a category that a film festival would wish was their entire lineup. So
Yeah.
that is the big push for TIFF. There's a lot more there. We will obviously be covering a dozen more to come. So keep in tuned on Letterboxes and Twitter, X, whatever it is. But Zach, Midnight Madness, the
Let's do it.
one category that I think TIFF is really known for because Fantastic Fest, Fantasia, those are midnight genre festivals. But a lot of these places, including Sundance, will have these midnights, and everyone's falling asleep at Sundance, right? I don't even think New York has a midnight one. But there is something about the crowd at Sundance or at Toronto when you're at a midnight screening and they have decided what the ad that plays before the movie that they're all going to make fun of collectively. They all go R for the piracy rating. There is an energy to a midnight movie at TIFF that you had the opportunity to catch last year with
Pearl.
Pearl.
Yeah. No, exactly. It is just electric. The environment is unlike any type of film screening that you're bound to see. Just people like stomping their feet, clapping their hands, screaming for movies. I mean, it sounds more like a concert than most movie
Yeah.
screenings. And lest we sound like it's kind of disruptive, it's not disruptive. It is like
All the time.
in celebration of the movies.
Yes.
And they tend to show the kinds of movies that can handle a rowdy crowd as well. Stuff like Pearl, a lot of horror films. There's a lot of raunchy comedies. Last year they were playing Weird, the Al Yankovic film. That was the opening Midnight Madness movie. But if you have the chance to go to Toronto, you absolutely have to see not just a Midnight Madness movie, but a Midnight Madness movie at midnight when the crowd is at its craziest. It is a one of the best type of film festival experiences to have.
Will you be sitting next to Travis Scott for Aggro Drift?
I hope so, man. I mean, we can watch the infrared colors together.
This is the newest experimental movie from Harmony Korine, the man who's done Spring Breakers, Gummo, Beach Bum. I don't know why they have Kid Solo here, but I was telling Zach last week that the Travis Scott movie, Circus Maximus, which he did to go out in theaters, had a crazy amount of directors helping him. Nicholas Winding Refn, Gaspar Noé, and Harmony Korine. So
There
now
you
they're
go.
working on a movie together. We know nothing other than it's shot like an infrared, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like two actors in this thing. One of them's not even an actor, so I don't know what they're gonna do with this, but this is definitely one to be anticipating, and it's gonna be at New York. So if you are too far away from Toronto, or you don't want to see it at midnight, I'm sure New York will have a comfy 1 p.m. showing.
That's one of those things too, is that like, occasionally a film festival will mount a weird movie and you're kind of like, how did this movie get in? Or are they just kind of like putting it on as a curiosity? The fact that it's playing not just Toronto, but it also is going to be playing New York, to me that's a huge sign of confidence. That's
Yeah,
a couple different teams thought this movie's cool enough that they want to get it
true.
early.
I do agree with you there. I just want to know why so many assassins? Yet another hitman who's going through hallucinations, bro. I don't know what's going on.
Something in the culture, man. I don't know.
Something's
We gotta talk about
happening.
it.
But yeah, Aggro Drift, the newest one from Harmony Korine starring Travis Scott. Look, I moved this next one off my list, but it's really number 2. I just don't plan on seeing it because it's gonna be right out. Bro, talk about this new musical.
Dix, the musical. I don't know, man. This is it's being advertised as A24's first movie musical.
Sure,
Remember when Waves was supposed to be A24's first musical? What happened to that?
it is.
Um, So yeah, this is, I guess, the first like sung musical, if that's what we want to go with, from A24, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. It stars Aaron Jackson and Josh Sharp, who I believe have been gaining a reputation for the comedy that they do together. This one sees them as business adversaries who suddenly realize they're identical twin brothers. There's a trailer
So
out for it
dumb.
already, which I think will give you a glimpse into the tone that they're going for, which is like
Yes.
very broad and satirical, very ridiculous. They have a lot of cast members who look up for this type of material, including Nathan Lane, Megan
That's
Mullally,
what I'm excited for.
Bowen Yang, and perhaps most notably, Megan the Stallion doing some original raps for this film as well.
Will she
Not
be
sure
better than
how.
She-Hulk?
Let's hope so. I don't know. It comes directed by Larry Charles, who's the
Yeah.
guy who is used to be Sacha Baron Cohen's go-to
Go
director for
to.
films like Borat and Bruno and The Dictator. He also is a frequent director on Curb Your Enthusiasm. So a guy with
Decent
some
show.
comedy chops. I don't know, man. I mean, it's not the film that I am most excited for at TIFF, but they didn't just make it a Midnight Madness movie. It is the opening Midnight Madness
Oh,
movie. Last year, that was the Weird Al movie, which, I don't know if that was the greatest film ever, but it's a good time. So I feel like I'm going to have a good time at Dick's the Musical as well.
I just love how they're calling it 824's twist on the Parent Trap. I think that's going to get a lot of butts and seats. So, Dix,
Absolutely.
the musical. And I see the last one that you have here is one that I also thought looked pretty good. Naga, a young woman stranded
Yeah.
in the Arabian desert, has to make it back. And I honestly think, mind you, we don't have all the artwork. This is top 5 TIFF posters, and I hope they don't change it for this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
That looks
It's
sick.
really cool. It's very intriguing and mysterious. I don't know whether the tone will be like kind of serious or very like exaggerated, but either way, it's got a cool plot, and that it's in the midnight section has me intrigued for sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of goofy ones. I know there's going to be a satire called Working Class Goes to Hell that's about like
Right.
a working class going to hell and them having to come together in order to be able to pull the community. Hell of a Summer is going to be an interesting one because it is the directorial debut of Finn Wolfhard. He's making a comedy slasher. How that's gonna go, I don't know. It's just him
We'll
and his
find
boy,
out.
his buddy, who's directed a whopping as much as he has. But we'll see what they do with that. Sleep would be one of the ones that I have on mine. This is a horror mystery about a guy, a spouse who wakes up in the middle of the night, and it may cause a split personality. I am very intrigued to see
Intriguing,
what this one
intriguing.
does.
Yeah.
But the biggest one, bro, it's my number one. It's above aggro, and it's even above Dix. Boy Kills World
Mm-hmm.
has
You,
Sam Raimi as producer, taking this boy Skarsgård and making him as ripped as possible. I saw this and I immediately got Tarzan flashbacks because
yeah.
his brother got jacked for that movie, and then it was all CGI. They have him fighting none other than Mad Dog himself as his freaking trainer, bro. I am there day one. I'm there, bro. This is one of my most anticipated top 10 of the fest. Boy Kills World. It looks like it's going to be one of the best action movies. They have very little stills about it. The one trailer that they have is their like concept art to get funding. That
Yeah.
looked pretty decent. Low budget,
Nice.
but pretty decent. I am very excited to see what they're going to do with this, bro.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Boy Kills World.
I'm always down to see Pennywise jacking some people up, so
Mm-hmm.
let's do it.
Watch, he's going to be an assassin as well, bro. Too many assassins out there. But that's all of the midnight stuff. What category do we got next?
Let's go to the platform section. I only got two movies that I
Okay.
put singled out here in platform. Platform is interesting because it tends to be, I wouldn't say like fully experimental, but a lot of films that tend to uh, push some boundaries, at least visually or sometimes in terms of how they're structured. They're not quite as like typical as the rest of the
Yeah.
rest of the slate, usually speaking.
What if you
Um,
zoom in there? What does it say? Platform is directors.
Directors Cinema Now,
Sure.
which I don't even know what that means,
I
but
don't even know what that means either, but
yeah,
yeah. We both have the same top two though.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about Dear Yasi first.
Yeah.
The latest film from Tarsem Singh, who of course was the director behind The Fall. He did The Cell. He's done a couple other films. Was it Immortals? Was that other one that he did?
Yeah.
Something
Maybe
like
not the
that.
best story, but they all look impeccable. Even Mirror
Yeah.
Mirror,
Yeah,
impeccable.
an unparalleled visual artist in many ways. And while some of the films are better than others, I'm definitely intrigued by this one. As you can see, it is his first film that's actually set in India, which perhaps will unlock a different aspect to his filmmaking. So
Hmm.
I don't know. He's just a filmmaker who has an ability to put images together that is hard to achieve, that few people work on that kind of level. So I'm at least intrigued by what he's got going on there.
Yeah, it's being pitched as a mystery thriller, but also a true life story about this couple that's supposed to be like a Romeo and Juliet because of them not being able to be together. So
Mm-hmm.
I have that one as my number two, and I think I have your number two. Oh, is my number one,
Yeah.
bro. There is no way that you can't have a movie that's A24. I'm gonna get to that. That's gonna be my final line. A movie that's coming. I don't even know where to begin. It has Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Great
called
place to
Dream
start.
Scenario. The name dropping that they do here is saying you haven't seen him this unhinged since Mandy. Wow, he's pretty unhinged all the time, but I will say that that was the last kind of like checkpoint, that Mandy freakout. It's
Mm-hmm.
got Michael Cera. It's co-produced by Ari freaking Aster. If people didn't think that man was making comedies, we got a comedy sci-fi right here already. On top of that, this been my boy, dude. Chris Stoffer made Sick of Myself, which I think is one of the best satirical comedies of this past year. One of my favorite movies of that year, this year. I know it was getting some releases in 2022, but that one's out on VOD. I think you should probably try that one. See how much you can put up with those characters. Before we get to this, the story of a schlubby professor who never made it and then becomes an overnight success. They have been talking about this being like a reverse Freddy Krueger. He appears in their dreams and can like control them in some sense. I have no idea how crazy they're gonna go in this movie. It is in my top five.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by it for sure. I mean, just Nicolas Cage in looking kind of like Bo from Bo is Afraid
Right?
is
Yeah.
enough to get me in the door. But
What
Nick does a
what's the
lot of
Gondry
movies at
movie?
TIFF.
Or it wasn't Gondry. Adaptation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we plays two brothers. He's always just like schlumping like that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Cage is an excellent actor in the right mode, and I don't know that it feels just from the vibes of it that we're going to get an interesting Cage performance here.
Already picked up by A24, and this one they just
Nice.
got crazy names, bro. This is what they called it. A24 is satire come social horror film. So another one to add to that that list of movies.
Definitely.
Some other ones to shout out here from this platform category is Sisterhood, which looks pretty interesting because it's got a trio of friends who don't really realize which ones of them have kind of an upper hand in the city that they live in. Great Absence is a drama that's going to be coming out that kind of follows the fragmented lives between these two characters that I think looks pretty interesting. But, bro, we got to talk about this. We haven't mentioned it yet. Maybe some of y'all have seen this. These movies these movies are long. Like they're showing shows for the first time, or like have a really big category for shows this year.
Yeah.
And those may be the shortest things that you can watch because it's only going to be an episode. These movies are running 152, 170. When we get into the docs, it's a lot. That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say. But the last one here to wrap up the platform category that kind of piqued my interest is a movie called Spirit of Ecstasy because I don't know her, but it stars a French pop star, Claire Pommet. I don't know if you know anything about her. She's making her
Nope.
acting debut, and it kind of reminds me of there was a movie that played with Saint Vincent, with Vincent.
Oh yeah, the
You know what I'm talking
Nowhere
about.
In, I believe that's the
Thank you.
Sundance movie.
Yes, that was like a weird movie that was kind of like about her, but not really about her. She kind of played herself, but not really. It became like a horror. This is the same thing of it kind of being like a self-portrait, and then I'm sure becomes sort of like a drama, a narrative.
Yeah,
But again, something that I would expect from the platform category.
definitely.
But that would be everything from there. Moving on to Discovery, which, if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to be from first-time directors, or if they really like them, directors who are working on their second films and still want to promote them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely at least like the more off the beaten path directors. I tend to get some like smaller budgets in this category. But yeah, as you said, it's really trying to highlight like the next wave of potential interesting directors. And there's some interesting films here. I don't know what jumped out to you. The one that immediately jumped out to me is one that I actually alluded to on our weekend must watch earlier. It's Backspot. This is a film. It's a Canadian film. They have these like cute little maple
Bro.
leaves
Okay, yeah, I thought
signifying which movies are
I
Canadian.
was referring to them to the maple syrup films, which I've been told is not the appropriate way. But if someone said the new burrito movie's out for Blue Beetle, I guess I would also say it as that. I had Backspot as one of my top from this category. I think this is a solid category, just in
Yeah,
general.
yeah. I mean, so this film particularly is about a driven cheerleader, and her girlfriend get selected for a cheer squad. To me, this sounds reminiscent
Na
of
na 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 na.
The Novice. Yes,
Okay.
The Novice. I don't want to go full like this sounds like Whiplash, but it sounds like The Novice to me in
Sounds like
terms
the
of like
novice.
yeah, like the inner workings and strain in a in an activity that you might not think of as like cutthroat. And it also stars Devery Jacobs, who is excellent on Reservoir Dogs on FX. So
That's who she is?
yeah,
Damn, bro. That's the girl in the front cover?
I think so.
Bro, I
Looks very
thought this
different.
was. Yeah, I thought this was like a German movie. Damn. Okay. It is also based off a short. I don't know if anyone has access to the short, but it would be interesting to see
Yeah,
how
it
it
looks like Devery's in the short too.
unfolds. Hey, boom. That's good then. Then that reminds me of Whiplash, bro.
There we go. So maybe it's not this year's Novice. Maybe it's this year's
Maybe
Whiplash.
it is this
Only
year's
one way to find
Whiplash.
out.
Only one way.
I see Josh in the live stream mentioning that How to Have Sex is in theaters in October over there in the UK. That's pretty cool. I don't know if we have a date here in North
I don't think
America.
so. We do. We have one in North America at the Toronto International Film Festival because
There
this
we
too is my
go.
top pick for this category after hearing all the praise from Con.
Absolutely. I mean, Amanda was telling us that it was one of the better films she saw at Con earlier this year. I was hopeful with that title that it might be like a fun kind of adolescent film, and she told
Hmm.
me no, it's actually
No?
kind of horrific, and they go through a lot in this movie. Either way, I'm still intrigued. It's got a interesting title, and I like films that are sort of deal with the aspects of children becoming adults and realizing how the adult world works in ways. And
Hmm.
it seems like a film that'll be like that. So yeah, How to Have Sex based off lots of things. One of the
Yeah.
ones that I'd recommend for Discovery.
This is one of the debuts, and just to know, because I know there was a discussion that people were having out of the theater that Amanda was telling us at TIFF.
Yeah,
She is 16, and I know that that was like a crux in those arguments and pieces and reviews that was being had. So I'm very curious now that it's being played at a second festival, how the movie's going to be perceived. But I'm very intrigued to see how they're going to break it down.
yeah, they didn't pull a no hard feelings and just age them up so nobody would bother. So, but
It's
yeah,
French, no?
yeah, it's French.
I expect
They
nothing
the
less from the
rules there.
French. All right, we
Last
got
pick that I
another
got
debut.
Absolutely. The last pick I got here is Gonzo Girl, and it is a debut, but not exactly from an unknown. It is Patricia Arquette's directorial
Wow,
debut. And
that's pretty
she,
cool.
yeah, and she directs this film that is an adaptation of a novel about a woman who served partially as Hunter S. Thompson's personal assistant.
Who's that?
And obviously Hunter S. Thompson is like a iconic journalist writer. He's the guy that Johnny Depp plays in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Bro, I'm staring at him right now on the screen. I'm like, that's exactly who he looks
Yep,
like.
he's got an iconic look, that
Okay.
Mike Bucket had and the floral. Yep,
Oh, all
um,
right. I'm even more intrigued now.
exactly. So it's got an interesting premise, and obviously coming from Patricia Arquette, and that makes it interesting. Willem Dafoe,
That's
one
crazy.
of the leads in this film too. Always good to see Willem Dafoe. So I'm very curious about this one too.
I am as well. I had that one at the top of my list. Some of the other ones that rounded it up. There's this one called Mandu, which translates into
I
Night
had this on my
Courier.
list too. Yes.
Right? This is a crime thriller, but they're saying there's comedy elements to it about a 30-year-old delivery man who is just like trying to get by. I'm very curious to see how this is going to play off. It seems like we have a lot of driving movies where people are just talking in cars, so I'm excited
Right.
for that.
Same here.
Another mystery thriller called The Teacher. Um, what's interesting about this is that it's paralleling a teacher who loses their son, and then an American who comes over. But the American in this movie, as I pull it up, is played by Imogen Poots. So she's going to be in this Palestinian movie starring one of the dudes who was in The Blue Kaftan, which is one of my like last movies that I want to see for like my top of the year list. Because I know this one played at Con, it played at Chicago. It took a while to come out, so it looks like it's going to have a really good cast and just the politicalness of them coming together as a couple. You had mentioned Gonzo Girl. Queen of My Dreams is a drama that is tracing the moments of a mother and a daughter at the same time. And Sundance had an award winner that kind of did the same thing, but got a little mixed reviews with the Persian version.
Hmm.
This may be the dramatic version of that I think people wanted to see, where you're following this parallels between a mother and a daughter and what they're going through. And I think that would, depending on how it's edited, I think this could be a really big standout. I think that sounds really cool. And the last one is this absurdist drama called Without Air about a woman who gets in trouble because of what she's teaching kids at school. And she starts getting into like LGBT stuff. The trailer to this, bro, looks crazy. I was like, this is going to be an interesting little drama to catch later. I find out that there's supposed to be absurdist elements, and just the clips that they show within there kind of booted it to my top. So that would be some of
Nice.
my wrap ups for the Discovery list.
Very cool. Should we get
We're
to
down to our
Centerpiece?
Centerpiece, yeah, down to the
Yeah.
last three categories. And Centerpiece sometimes pulls up with some movies that make it seem like this should be up there with the Gala and the special
Yeah.
presentations.
I don't know exactly why they think some films are Centerpiece, some film are Gala, film are some are
Right?
special. Yeah, they all kind of feel like similarly ambitious and
Some have
exciting.
played, some have not played. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do we got though?
Yeah, well, let's start with one that has played at Cannes. Let's talk about Fallen Leaves, an intriguing film. I think it's a Japanese and German co-production. At least the director, I believe, might be Japanese because
Interesting.
there's some people who want Japan to submit this film for Best International based off of their responses to it at Cannes. It's sort of a film about two people who like come together in this sort of tragic comedy dialogue thing. Yeah, I just like those types of films that are very intimate and personal, and it seems like it's got all the ingredients to be uh, just a special movie, and especially
Hmm.
based off the reviews out of Cannes.
Yeah, this one's also playing in New York. I keep forgetting I kind of have like a subset of a bunch of these categories. Movies
Yeah.
that maybe you're looking forward to, but if it has a New York release, for the most part, I've put them in a separate category. But this one calls itself a tragic comedy.
Hmm.
I'm intrigued too.
Yeah, I mean that's the story for not just Fall Leaves, but for probably my most anticipated in this category, Perfect Days. This is the film that Amanda came out of Cannes raving about the most. I believe she said this was her favorite film at Cannes. I believe Ewan, one of our patrons, also said that this was his favorite film that he got a
Damn.
chance to catch at Cannes. The latest from Wim Wenders, which is described as a poignant character study about finding beauty in the everyday world around us. But I'm just basing this one solely off of the tons of people who have responded effusively to what they saw in Perfect Days.
Yeah, I think Amanda was like they just cleaned toilets and it was the most profound experience I had in France, and I was like,
Yeah,
damn, bruh. Okay, I'm there. Also, are both W's V's or is one
I,
WV?
I believe it's Wim Wenders is how it's supposed to be
Vim
pronounced.
Vendors? Okay, so both
A
V's.
lot
Gotcha.
of yeah, a lot of Eastern European countries do the W instead of the V.
Gotcha. Want to make sure. All right, like
Yeah,
Vivitch.
yeah. I could be
Uh,
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody should correct me if
might-
I am.
probably is.
It,
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too, just off of the reviews. And I also have this last one right here on my radar that you have.
Yeah. So They shot the piano player is one that did not premiere at Cannes, but I found interesting. It is one of the few animated movies that is playing this festival, although it is sort of like a more mature and mysterious looking animation film.
Mm-hmm.
It is described as a film that's about a journalist who tries to uncover the truth behind the disappearance of a piano player, and it is
Ooh,
led by the voice of Jeff Goldblum
that's
r-
crazy.
randomly. But yeah, I mean, I'm always intrigued when we get something that looks a little bit more hand drawn, that's not necessarily marketed to kids, and it's one of these opportunities we get to really see what the animation genre can do. Because although I love the films that people like Pixar and Disney animated often produce, it's these little more off the beaten path animated films that you really get uh, the innovation. I feel like in animation.
Yeah, you were saying I think they've done some interesting stuff in the past. This Chico and Rita has been on my watch list for a while as well, so I'm very curious to see what they do. And there's another animated one. I'm not sure if it's in this category or if it's going to be later. Um, I might have been a little bit earlier, but I also had another one from this category that I was pretty interested in seeing. But there, oh, here it is. I found it. The other animated movie that I
Robot
think is going to
Dreams.
be awesome, Robot Dreams, because it's based off of
Yeah.
a graphic novel. There was one clip to this, and it got taken down. So I'm like, damn, they're really looking to make this into something. But Robot Dreams looks pretty dope about a a dog and his robot friend who get separated. Like I don't know, that sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
It's
forward to that one.
also Neon is distributing that one, and
Stop. Robot Dreams?
it's such an unusual movie for a studio like Neon to be tied to that kind of
Good.
makes me think it must be something special.
Hell yeah. I mean, again, if they're
Yeah.
taking it down, that showed me that they had some, copyright people they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you had a couple of other ones, but let me go through some right here. Teacher's
Yeah.
Lounge is like an incident happens with the students, and the teacher has to like snitch on who took something, but she knows the consequences of what's going to happen to the kid.
Hmm.
But then like someone records the teacher's lounge, and it turns out that what happens in the teacher's lounge should stay in the teacher's lounge. The trailer's got a lot of energy to it. And I'm very curious to see what they're going to be doing with this drama. Some other ones that just sounded funny. The feeling that the time for doing something has passed.
Great title.
This is either going to be garbage or it's going to hit, bro.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It seems like there's some BDSM stuff going on in the plot
Yeah,
line too. That's on my list. I'm not sure if it's my favorite title at TIFF, because my favorite title at TIFF might be Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person.
yeah,
Uh,
that's
that's another one where I'm there off title alone. And to me, it just sounds like it's going to be a dry horror comedy, and it's described as a deadpan horror comedy that finds droll humor. So yeah, I'm curious about that one in the centerpiece section as well. I know
it,
that there are
I
a
like
couple
how it says
films.
she only feeds on people she has sympathy for. That is the perfect way to set up the movie. Sorry, keep going.
Absolutely, it feels kind of like almost What We Do in the Shadows esque.
Yes.
There are a few films here that are movies we caught at other festivals fitting in, which I think we thought was like okay, coming out of Tribeca. Sorry, that was
Change
out of
his name.
South by Southwest to change its name from Bloody Hell. Hey Victor, which I know you caught at
Yeah, so goofy.
Tribeca, a very funny movie. I didn't catch Mountains at Tribeca, but I heard
Bro,
really
I had
good
that
things
one.
about
Did
it.
you seen the reviews for this, man?
Yeah, really good. So that's one that's on my list as well.
I'm trying to pull that one up. Yeah, Mountains played at Tribeca. It was like literally on the last day
Hmm.
they had like the links up for stuff before everything went away. This was on there. I was like, all right, let me catch it in the morning, and then it was gone. No, people have been like just raving about this intimate drama about a construction worker who's just like really just trying to get by as like he might be out of a job and out of the neighborhood. But
Hmm.
nah, yeah, the fact that it made it all the way to TIFF has me very excited to catch.
Exactly. I'll give a quick shout out to Shada, which was a really moving film that I saw back at Sundance about escaping an abusive relationship. But one more film that I want to at least give a spotlight to is We Grown Now, which
My
is the
number
latest
one
from.
movie of this.
Okay, I'll let you talk about it then, because I saw Minhal Baig's last film, Hala, when it debuted at Sundance, and it's a really interesting
It's
character
good.
drama. But to me, it was like one of those films where it's like, all right, I need to see what you do next, because I feel like it's going to be incredible.
So no one told me that she was from Chicago.
Yeah,
So she was like raised here, and so she spent all this time talking to people from the Cabrini Green projects to make
Hmm.
this story that's supposed to go through different decades about the Cabrini Green housing complex, in particular following two friends. But the fact that they say it starts like in the 40s when the Italians were there, like what those housing was originally, bro, this has the ability to be one of the standouts of the year for me.
Absolutely.
I got
Uh,
nothing else to say.
I'm hoping it's going to be one of those ones that because I don't feel like it's getting talked about that much, and I'm hoping
No,
this is going to be one of those ones that it ends up being like, oh, you got to see this before you leave Toronto.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm
yeah,
glad that you also had that there. We grow now.
yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
was
no,
also
solid
intrigued by
list.
the "I do not come to you by chance," which looks like it's a take on the whole Nigerian prince uh,
Yeah, bro.
scams.
Hold on. Where do I have this one over here?
I got it
You
on
got it pulled
my
up?
screen.
Gotcha.
If you,
Yeah,
yeah.
let me put you on there. Um, right, the dude gets a degree and still has to like go join his uncle.
It could be really fun.
I think that this has the ability to be because it's also based off of a novel, so it's like it's already the story and the plot points are there. So I think it has potential.
Oh, and shout out to Tyler in the live stream comments mentioning that National Anthem is a film that played at South by Southwest. We got confused back at South by because there were two films that were originally called National Anthem
National
there.
anthem, and then they changed the other one into Americana,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
but I don't think either of us got a chance to actually see National Anthem at South by. Though.
I did remember because we got denied that there was no
Oh, right,
links, but then
right.
someone in our group did get a link. So then
Yep.
that person in our group allowed us to share links as we shared links
Cool.
with them that they didn't get. But yeah, national anthem.
So yeah.
But it's a really good one. I know there's some other New York picks as well, like About Dry Grasses that I think is 47 hours long. So we're gonna catch
Yeah.
that over there. Close Your Eyes, a mystery thriller that's also gonna be in New York. So just endless, bro. And we still have two categories left.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm saving About Dry Grasses for New York. I'm curious about
Same.
it, but not curious enough to devote
Gotta
three
save
and a
it.
half hours of my time in Toronto to it.
Yep. All right. Your top three documentaries.
Tip three, at least from the TIFF docs section, because they do that thing where they also have some docs in other
Mm-hmm.
places. This is one that even though I have it on my list for films I'm excited about at TIFF, I'm gonna wait till New York because we now know that it's going to play at New York as well. But menus, plaisirs, le trois gros. I don't know. I don't speak French. Excuse me for butchering that pronunciation. But it is the latest film from documentarian legend Frederick Wiseman, and it chronicles the day-to-day activities in a three-star Michelin restaurant. We were talking. Wiley mentioned earlier he's watching The Bear. Well, this might feel like watching the documentary version of one of those episodes where cousins in the back room or whatever. Right? You see all the inner workings of what a high class elite restaurant can do, and you really get to see it all because it is 240 minutes
40
long,
freaking minutes.
which sounds incredible. I want that so badly, although I don't know if I can justify seeing it in Toronto because that's a whole day right there.
And you're also starving the most out of all the film festivals, I think, in Toronto. So yeah. Look, it's also going to be playing at Venice, which just adds more hype to it. That I think that's where it's premiering before Toronto and then New York. You had mentioned that the restaurant has three Michelin stars, three Michelin stars for more than 5 decades. Remember, they go in there, they rip that out of you. So the fact that they've maintained it, look, out of all the documentarians out there, look at this man. This man don't play. So it's gonna be a really good one. I saw City Hall off of one of the virtual festivals, which would again, City Hall is like 200 and something minutes as well. But when I watched 272, damn, when I watched that at home, that's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, we're gonna have to go to a Mission Star restaurant after for this other one. But yeah,
Be good.
a really good pick.
Yeah. So that one is the first one I'd mention. I was also really intrigued by the contestant. Just like a very interesting plot on that one, sort of chronicling the story of this man who appeared as a contestant on Japanese reality TV show, where he was left naked in a room for more than a year, tasked with filling out magazine sweepstakes in order to earn food and clothing. And it a film that I don't think is just telling his story, but asking like what his story says about our culture and what we put the kind of things we put people through. Just sort of an out there premise, and I think we've had different films that sort of like look at perhaps like little little corners of pop culture and try to extrapolate into larger messages about like society. This seems like a good place to do a kind of film like that.
I see that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, and sorry to bother you, the dumb game shows that they had in there in real life.
Yeah, I hear that. Last one that I'll mention is the Pigeon Tunnel, because first of all, it is the latest from another documentary legend, Errol Morris, perhaps my favorite documentarian. And in this one, he is profiling David Cornwell, the spy novelist who goes by John Le Carre. And if you don't know the name, you've probably at least heard of some of the things that were adapted, whether that is Tinker Tailor's Soldier Spy, The Spy Who
Ah,
Came In From the Cold, The Night
yes.
Manager, The
Mm-hmm.
Constant Gardener.
Of
He's
course.
basically written like half of the famous spy novels of the past few decades. So yeah, just getting Errol Morris's uh, perspective on an iconic writer. I'm curious about that because Errol Morris is one of our best documentarians.
Yep. I have that in my top list as well because like this is a verb. Thin Blue Line. It's what every documentary like has been wanting to do, not just making a doc, but like solving the case.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's what makes them the GOAT. They have a Varda doc for those who are curious. I know that they instituted an entire wing. I remember we were in Toronto around the time when she had passed, and if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken, and I remember there was like a huge talk about like getting a wing for her, and I think they did establish something near the light box. So this is going to be looking back at her entire career, which I think is going to look really interesting. Do you know Mr. Dressup? I,
I
I'm a I'm a big Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood guy. This was the dude who ran the puppets.
oh,
Took it
okay.
to Canada, if I'm not mistaken, and then ended up creating like his entire world of make believe over there. And I was just, at
Interesting.
first, I was so wrong. I'm like, wow, what a copycat. Not even a copycat. He's an OG. He
Yeah.
he was with Mr. Rogers, creating the stuff. Went out and did his own thing. So I'm kind of curious to see this one, how they build it up. You're a big soccer guy. I was curious your thoughts on Copa 71 because it's talking
Yeah.
about the Women's World Cup. That
Yeah, and I
never
believe
happened?
exactly like an unofficial Women's World Cup. I mean, obviously the
It's
most recent
crazy.
Women's World Cup just ended. Congrats to Spain. Don't not congrats to their coaches. But this documentary does look very interesting. It's executive produced by, is it both of the Williams sisters are on attached to this one?
Yes, EPs, both Venus Williams and Serena Williams, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to check that one out once I get the chance.
It also comes from one of the documentarians who had done like Battle of the Sexes, which ended up
Hmm.
also becoming a movie with Stone, if I'm not
Emma
mistaken.
Stone, Steve
Yeah,
Carell.
Billy was also pretty good. So I'm curious what they do with this because it's also the TIFF Docs opening night film.
Ooh, okay.
But one of the ones I'm really excited for, bro. Bye Bye Tiberius. This is following Hiam Abbas, who many of you are going to know from a multitude of different series, maybe even movies. I pulled up the letterbox, so I don't have her
Yeah,
stuff here,
most
but
recently
obviously,
Succession.
her family is stacked with just talent. There
Hmm.
are other actresses who remained over there back home, but then her daughter is making this movie about her family. I have this one queued up because this was supposed to be about her grandparents, and a lot of the reviews were like, "Dang, I wish you went just a little bit farther and connected things." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, it sounds like she did. This movie follows her and her mom, and I guess her aunts and everybody as they go back home to talk about this like shared legacy of what they've made together as artists. I'm very intrigued to see what they're going to do with this, and that's why I have it as one of my top documentaries that's going to be out there. As a part of
Yeah.
the competition here, I did have two other ones that are part of other categories. One of them would also be playing in New York, Youth, or also known as Spring. It's a TIFF documentary by Wang Bing that takes 2,600 hours, and lucky for you, Zach, it's only going to be 3 hours and a half. So you don't
Oh,
have to sit
nice.
for the
Great.
entire thing. Like I said, this one is going to be playing in New York, but it's supposed to follow just a bunch of textile workers. and the little nuances there. It's the complete opposite of a Michelin star restaurant, but nonetheless, I think takes the same care to follow the employees who are there. So I have that one there at the top. My next one that I have is going to be the conclusion, or at least the beginning, to our final category, which is the wavelengths. You got something pulled up for what people consider wavelengths? Because I think this is like TIFF's next category.
Yeah, Wavelengths to me is one of the ones that sometimes is a little hard to figure out what to be excited about, but there's definitely two here that stood out to me. One is Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World, another great TIFF title. And this one is the latest from Radu Jude, who more recently made the film Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn, I believe it's
Yes.
called, which is available on Hulu if you're curious to catch
Censored.
up with that. It's the censored version, unfortunately. I was mixed on Bad Luck Banging. There's parts of the film that I really like and parts of the film that I find really boring. Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World has a really intriguing premise, too, about this woman who is filming a video for a safety at work video when one of her interviewees uh, in, uh, uncovers a liability that develops into a scandal. I think there are some similarities in how that plot is explained to the way things unfold in Bad Luck Banging, and I really loved like the finale of Bad Luck Banging. So if the whole thing can kind of feel like that last act of that movie, I'm going to really enjoy this one. The fact that it's in the wavelength section makes me feel like he's still kind of doing his structural experimentation, but we'll see. I'm intrigued by that one.
I'm
And then I'm
curious.
yeah,
This is
and then
the ugliest poster of the fest.
you don't like it? You don't like the human duck thing?
Pictures of Ghost, I agree, is going to be a really good documentary also
Yeah,
coming out. And it's going to play it in New York.
yeah. But I'll probably end up saving it for New York. But it is one that is pretty high on my radar.
This one also comes from Kleber Mendoka? Philo, I hope I said that correctly, who did Bacurau, which I think was one of the
Yeah,
real big standouts that also came from TIFF that time. But I'm assuming this one, Pictures of Ghosts, is looking through like all of the movie houses, and it's supposed to be told like a video essay. So, very curious to see what they do there. But other than that, I think the only other two that stood out to me, the Human Surge 3, because it's a sequel to the Human Surge 1. There is no Human Surge 2.
cool.
Experimental. And then
Yep.
Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell, which I think might be really long, but I don't know. Out of all the experimental ones, this is the one that stood out because it was the winner of the Camera d'Or at Cannes. So
Ooh,
at least with an experimental film, if they're making it look really nice, then
right.
maybe you can get into the whole idea of what they're going. But it's an odyssey across the physical and spiritual landscapes of Vietnam in order to reunite his nephew with the boy's estranged father. Kind of feels like it's going to have. I know y'all didn't like the movie, but I think you all agreed it looked really nice out of Sundance, where it was like the waves coming in, and he said it was edited as if the waves were coming up and down, and he was trying to do a lot of
Well, are you
the
talking about the
boom.
Hawaiian movie?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So maybe Zach, don't watch Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell. That's gonna be 179 minutes, but I feel like it's gonna be that vibe.
yeah.
So a lot of very nice landscapes, but a lot of very nice movies as we've gone through all of the stuff here at Toronto. There's still a lot of the other stuff that we're going to be catching up on that we're going to be covering as we give you dispatches from Toronto that begin September 7th. We will be
Definitely.
updating our letterboxes. We're going to be going on here live to be talking about what you should have on your radar. We'll probably even be doing some Twitter X compilations, going through what our favorites of the day are going to be because we're going to be there. Um, Amanda's going to be there. I think Carson said he was going to be there as well, so he's
Yeah,
going to be
Carson
having
will be
some
there
picks over
too.
there. Just honestly helping each other out to stay away from the bad stuff and go in for the good things because there is so much to watch out of everything that we displayed here. Let us know your favorites. What's one movie that we maybe didn't cover that we should have on our radar? Definitely let us know. And what other stuff, especially with New York that's coming up, should be things that we should have on the horizon. But other than that, let's get a little breakdown about just the festival in general, in terms of how to navigate it, what to do, because that I think is a very important part when you have your schedule ready to go and then you realize you have to somehow teleport to a completely different venue.
Exactly.
You said you went through the venues a bit, so I don't know if you could break that
I
down,
did
if there's
well.
anything missing.
Um, interestingly, like the venues have been changing. I think the last time you were in Toronto
In
for
85, yeah.
the festival, they were still they had still what is it? The Ryerson Theater, which was up by the college over there.
Wait, it's
Uh,
gone?
it's gone, man. They have really
Stop.
scaled back.
That was
They're
my midnight theater, bro.
not anymore apparently.
Man, we
Um,
sat right next to Batman or Pattinson for Lighthouse.
oh, is that the one that you saw Pattinson?
Yeah. You did
Damn.
too, did you not? We were all there.
No, I wasn't there for that one. Although we caught uncut gems there.
There, exactly. Another great one.
Yeah, another obviously great one. But
Oh, that
yeah,
sucks, bro.
and not only that, last year when I was there, they were still using the dome, the IMAX dome, for some screenings of films like
Yeah.
Knives Out and stuff like
They
that.
did Nope there last year, yeah.
Exactly. This year they are down to just 5 venues. The TIFF Bell Lightbox, which is a beautiful
It's the best one.
auditorium. It's got incredible sound, and the screens are
Dolby.
all seen. You got Scotiabank, which is a solid chain movie theater, but it is like a chain movie
Boo!
theater.
Boo, they were dumb.
What
They
were they
never played
done?
the streamings.
The what?
They never played streaming movies, Scotiabank Theater, because they were completely
Oh,
against
right.
the Netflix movie, so they didn't know what to do with Roma, so Roma had to be played at the TIFF Bell Lightbox, which was like, oh, what a shame, we have to go see it in the better theater with Dolby Sound.
Yeah, so Scotiabank's got that beef with Netflix. Although I feel like I
They
saw
fixed it, because Martin Scorsese came out the following year with a movie, and they were like,
exactly,
never
yeah.
mind, yeah, so hypocrites, but yeah, Scotiabank, decent.
You have the Princess of Wales Theater, which is one of the more iconic theaters.
With the
Really,
vines?
yeah. Well, no, no, no. That you're thinking about the Winter Garden Theater. That one is gone, man. The Elgin and Winter Garden no longer part of the festival. To me,
What?
the nicest venue they got right now is probably Roy Thompson Hall. That's where I saw Fablemans last year. Just like a very modern, big theater. It feels like it should be a place to see like a play or something like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
the last three that you're showing there, Princess of Wales, Roy Thompson, and Royal Alexandria, are all predominantly like theatrical, not movie theatrical, but like actual theater
Like,
stuff.
yeah, showings,
Yeah.
Broadway type stuff.
So I
But,
like Roy
wow,
Thompson a
20%,
lot.
dang.
Royal Alexandria, it's a nice theater. It's a little bit cramped. Like you might find your knees are a little bit tight after a screening there. But look, we only got 5 venues now after all the changes. The thing that even though they have like eliminated some of the theaters we liked, eliminated that big IMAX screen and stuff like that, um, it still is what am I trying to show here? The thing that is cool about what TIFF has done is that they've centralized it a lot. So the furthest that you're going to go is probably between the Scotiabank Theater and is it I believe Roy Thompson Hall. So I'm going to pull that up really quickly. That is a 7-minute walk according to Google Maps. So
Sheesh.
let me present my screen so people can see it. Um, yeah, boom, right there. It's like 2.5 blocks between the furthest movie theaters from each other. So while some festivals like Sundance and South by leave you scrambling across town, sometimes leave you scrambling between different cities in order to catch a screening, most of the stuff in Toronto is going to be pretty centrally located, which will make it pretty easy to bounce between the Princess of Wales Theater, the TIFF Bell Lightbox right down here, the Scotiabank up there, the Roy Thompson Hall right down there. It's all going to be here on a couple blocks in Old Toronto.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Good little map there. Just be careful when you're walking. That's all I'm gonna say, from what I remember.
In what sense?
There's like a mall area over here, and if you remember correctly, that's where they filmed the Waterloo guy. I guess the best way to tell you what type of people they are, that's where the vampire guy went. That's where I am from Waterloo. And like every time I see that video, I keep thinking, dang, did I walk across that guy? I know I walked across someone kind of similar.
There's
Toronto
a
likes
lot
to
of
talk about healthcare. Canada likes to talk about all these different things they have against America. You walk that side of right there where Zach's got that line. You walk to the right side of that, man, it's no better than Times Square. They got like their boom Times Square over there.
yeah, yeah, they do. But it's a pretty like lively couple of blocks. There's lots of restaurants and stuff like that. I have found personally that on this corner right here, there is a hot dog stand that is both one of the cheapest and most consistent options to get between movies. You stop right on the corner of King Street and John Street, and you can grab for less than $10 a
The
couple hot
glizzy.
dog. Yeah, best way to it's not regular glizzies either. You got the Polish sausage, you got the Italian
Is it a
sausage, you got all
stand?
sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's a little stand.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, that's my little TIFF tip for festival
Oh,
goers if you
my
need to
TIFF tip
find some
is
food between screenings.
I think they're putting the Nespresso machines out. Just go in there and say you have an interview, make yourself an espresso pod and dip,
There you go.
bro. They got way too much espresso pods there. I came back with like a 24 pack one year. They just they're ridiculous over there. But besides the theaters, there's going to be obviously awards that they're going to be having in terms of actors and what the People's Choice tends to be. And a lot of those awards, I'm not going to say are going to define everything, but eventually do end up becoming like really big movies that get catapulted towards award season. So there is that
Absolutely.
to look out for as well. These were some of the ones from last year to see what people end up getting this year. But overall, I think one of the last comments that you had queued up there would be breaking down what our top five are. And I do have a one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. If I may do seven in no particular order,
Yeah, let's do it.
these would be mine. I am gonna start it off with Les Indesirables, The
Yeah.
Undesirables.
The Laj Lee
Uh,
film.
yeah, the Lodge Lee film easily. I think that's going to be a fantastic drama. I'm then going to go with Fingernails, the newest one that's going to have Jesse Buckley and Riz Ahmed. I'm going to go with The Boy and the Heron because I'm very excited to see what the man's working up. Miyazaki. We Grown Now is for sure higher than where I have it right here, but this is the one by Minhao Bai who did Hala, and she's focusing on a friendship in the Cabrini Green projects in Chicago. Boy Kills World, bro. I'm gonna have to pick up two images here because yes, the boy is ripped for this one. Skarsgård, Billy, is going all out as I think it even said he's like a mute fighter. So we'll see how that develops. And then Anatomy of a Fall. I feel like this is already set in stone that it's going to be a classic. I'm very curious to see the performances here as well as how the story unfolds. And then Dream Scenario, dude, the comedy
Mm.
sci-fi that's just going to be all over the place. Great director, great producer, and Nick Cage looks like he's going to kill it.
Yeah, promising combination of elements for sure. If I can just quickly rip off a top five, I know like some of them that you mentioned, some of them I mentioned. I'll put the holdovers in there. The latest from Alexander Payne, return to form, hopefully for Paul Giamatti, and just looks like a fun coming of age type throwback movie. American Fiction, the directorial debut from Cord Jefferson, has me really intrigued, particularly given that it stars Jeffrey Wright. I have Perfect Days, but we can just call this my sort of like con award winners slot because I'm interested in Anatomy of a Fall. I'm interested in Zone of Interest. I'm interested in How to Have Sex.
Right?
This is probably the one that I'm most interested in of all of them, based on the things that I've heard. Although there are a lot of really cool films that have debuted already that we're going to get a chance to catch up with there. My number two is one that you mentioned. It's We Grown Now. I think the premise is really exciting. I think the filmmaker is really exciting. Very interested to check that one out. But I got at my number one, Fingernails. Like you, I thought Apples is just like one of the really underlooked great films that we got recently, and I'm intrigued to see what he does with an American production and these great actors.
Isn't it funny that it's going to Apple?
I know it seems like faded that way.
But that's all of the picks, all of the stuff that we have for this Toronto preview. Let us
Yeah,
know if you're going, if you have any recommendations for us, any movies, any tips, any tricks, all that good stuff. We're here to listen to all that too.
yeah.
But other than that, we'll be updating everything dealing with the fest. You can follow me over at LME Movies on all social media. Zach, where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Zshevich, Zshevich, and V as in the Visa screening room at the Princess of Wales. There we go, I got one. And you can follow my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show.
A big shout out to all the InterQT patrons who support us monthly over on the Intercut patron channel. A big shout out to all the listeners who are here live giving us some updates as well. I know one of the things that I recently got was an update on Niad, Netflix.
Naiad, yeah. Niad, I don't know.
Something like, yeah. It's going to be out at the end of October, beginning of November. So some really good updates there. We appreciate all of that. A big shout out to all of the iTunes listeners who leave us those 5-star reviews. Every 5-star review you leave, it's a whole category of movies that we get to see at these film festivals and
Hmm.
more coverage that we can bring you. A big shout out to everyone who listens live every week here on the Intercut Podcast
Yeah.
YouTube channel as we cover all of our must watch movies and all of the Toronto picks as well. And again, in the middle of TIFF, we will be together, so we will be able to do a hangout where it is virtual with y'all. Bazak and I will be together. We will be sharing one of those glizzies over at the Toronto market.
There we
Other than
go.
that, let us know your thoughts down below and anything else dealing with movies.
Yeah.
And we'll send you
Uh,
some.
Oh,
What
and
you
I
were
was
saying?
going to say another thank you to those patrons.
We'll
To
send you
Shark
patrons.
Cademan, Connor, Josh May, Ricky, Joe, Janicia, Tyler, Benji, Yuden, Veer, Sam, and Wiley. Just before we go, and yeah, we'll see you in Toronto. Any last words, Art?
Big shout out to all of the patrons. Keep watching movies.